Hello everyone. So today's video I will start from part 3, fundamental rights. If you can recall, in the previous video I have started with the constitutional framework and related laws in India, wherein the first part was the preamble that we discussed in the previous video. Now I'm gonna start with the second part, that is fundamental rights, and these fundamental rights are enriched in articles 12 to 35. This is the range wherein different fundamental rights are defined, and that all comes under part 3 of the Indian Constitution. So let's see what the salient features of fundamental rights are. They are enforceable by higher courts in India. So whether it is a high court at the state level or the Supreme Court at the country level, at the national level, fundamental rights can be enforced in both these level courts. In high court it can be by article 226 of Indian Constitution, and the same thing by writ jurisdiction. The fundamental rights can be enforced in Supreme Court of India by virtue of article 32 of Indian Constitution. Article 32 provides right to aggrieved ones, means you can say the victims, to the one who have suffered an injury or a loss, whose fundamental rights have been violated. If a person is being snatched away, or his fundamental right, he is denied from the fundamental right, then he can file a petition in the Supreme Court or High Court. But if it's article 32, then to enforce his fundamental rights, which were then otherwise denied, can be enforced by a Supreme Court, article 32. And what it is, like, what it means that fundamental rights are violated or denied. If, see, right to vote is a fundamental right to live in a peaceful environment is a fundamental right. So if you, like, there is litter around and you are not able to survive, there are diseases because of the unclean environment or surroundings that you are having, so you can see this is your fundamental right to live in a clean surroundings, to breathe clean air, and that all comes under article 21, which is fundamental right. So for that case you can file a petition that because of this person or this factory there is so much litter gathered around my home or my house or my office, because of which my fundamental right to live in a clean environment is violated, or because of which I am denied of this fundamental right. This is just an example. There may be some other cases also where the person's fundamental rights are denied or violated, whatever the case may be. So for that, petitions can be filed up in Supreme Court or High Courts, both. If you want to file the petition in the Supreme Court, then that can be done by article 32, and if you want it to be filed in the High Court, let it be any High Court of India, any state level High Court, then for that you have to go by virtue of article 226. Please remember these articles, these are very important. Wherever the article comes, underline that line in your books and make sure that you have learned them. Article 13 elevates the authority of fundamental rights. It ensures that state or other competent authority do not make laws, including ordinances, orders, bylaws, rules, regulations, notifications, customs, or usages that contradicts or takes away or breaches. Breaches means to break, to violate the fundamental rights. So Article 13, by Article 13, it is ensured that the parliament or the government or any authority which is for framing the laws, that doesn't make such arbitrary laws that results in the violation of fundamental rights. Now fundamental rights, if I tell you, that is the part of basic structure of Indian Constitution, and I guess we have did that in the previous video, that the parliament can amend anything and everything except the basic structure part of Indian Constitution. So whatever is the basic structure of something, if you amend that or if you disturb that, then the whole authority or or that whole institution gets disturbed. So the basic structure of constitution as an organ or as a rule book, you don't have to touch that. You can't touch that. You can't make any law that is going against the provisions or the principles which are a part of basic structure of Indian constitution. And one such part is fundamental rights. So basically the parliament or the legislature or the executive in its actions, it cannot take or it cannot make any rule, regulation, or any legislation, any order it can't pass which will result in the violation of fundamental rights of even a single person. Fundamental rights are mostly enforceable against the state, means wherever you are filing the case that my fundamental right is violated, so that will be versus the state of UP, state of MP or whatever, or it also may be against Union of India, and also it may be against the private person, that means an individual who has resulted in the violation of your fundamental right, like Ram versus it may be Suhas. That means this private individual named Suhas has violated some or the other fundamental right of Ram. So that can be just an example for the case. An example of former is right to freedom of speech and expression, for latter is prohibition of employment of children below the age of 14 years in factories, mines and in places of hazardous activities. Former means if you are filing a case that is enforceable against the state, then for that, like it may happen in a democratic government that people try to suppress the protests. See, protests are what? You have the freedom to assemble anywhere and to speak or to express what you think of, right? So that is basically what comes under freedom of speech and expression. And if you are denied this, that is a fundamental right, so that you can enforce against the government which is not allowing you to exercise this fundamental right of yours, right? So that is against the state. Now if it is against a private person doesn't mean a single individual, it can be any private institution or an organization as well, okay? Any factory that is which is not a part of the government, any factory or any institution which is not funded by the government, let it be any government, state or central, whatever, it has not to be funded by the government. It like we say कि ये government office है, that means funding government कर रही है, ठीक है? ये गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज है तो फंडिंग गवर्नमेंट दे रही है, ये गवर्नमेंट की फैक्ट्री है, प्राइवेट फैक्ट्री है. सो आई थिंक यू कैन मेक दैट डिस्टिंक्शन. The term state includes, now see, what is the state? Against the state, तो उसमें state क्या है? State means the government, parliament, state legislatures, district boards, panchayats, municipalities and other authorities or organizations that are an instrument or agency of the state, जिनकी funding state से हो रही है. So basically state is any organization or an institution that gets funding from the government 50% or more. 50% funding or more than 50% funding of an organ or an institute, if it is done by the government, either of the state or of the country in its whole, that institution is termed as the state. That is the basic thing. Fundamental rights are largely civil and political rights and consist of right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation. So these are the basic 6 fundamental rights that are granted. Now each fundamental right will be dealt with in detail, wherein the first in line is right to equality. Equality, to treat everybody equal, right? This is the general meaning of the word. Equality principle, Article 14. Please remember the articles, I am saying it again and again. Equality principle, Article 14 provides to all the right to equality before law and equal protection of law. That means it ensures that each and every person, without any sort of discrimination on any grounds, any sort of discrimination has to be prohibited, and every person is considered to be at equal level before the eyes of law, and each person is granted the same protection by law. Why we are making laws? If there are so many murders that are committed in the society, then there is a legislation which is framed immediately so that there is a strict or stringent punishment in hand, so that by virtue of this legislation further people are not encouraged, or they are not indulged in further activities like killing somebody, right? So to solve a problem, or if it is a large scale of crime that is prevalent in the society, then to improve that situation, to bring about law and order or harmony and peace in the society, some legislations are framed that are required time to time. Yes. So and that is for to protect the people from the evil or wrongs that are committed. So if you are making a law that prohibits murder, that means it is an evil which you are trying to avoid by virtue of a legislation. And if you are avoiding it, that means indirectly you are leading to protecting the people. As you know, it is a part of human rights that the nation has to give protection to the citizens who are residing over there, right? It means that law treats everyone equally without consideration of their rank or status or other backgrounds. Principle of equality means that one uniform law cannot be applied to all equally, as some may not be similarly placed as others. So if there is a टेबल लाइक दिस मच हाइट एंड दिस मच हाइट, यहाँ पर बंदा बहुत छोटा है, यहाँ पर बंदा इतना बड़ा है, यहाँ बंदा इतना बड़ा है, दिस इज़ द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ इक्वालिटी. इनकी हाइट छोटी है तो उनको इतने हाइट का स्टूल दिया, इनकी हाइट थोड़ी बड़ी है थोड़ा बड़ा स्टूल दिया. तो यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग द इक्वालिटी. दैट मीन्स इट मे हैपन कि वो सेम सर्कमस्टेंस में नहीं है, वो सेम चीज़ अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रहा जैसे कि ये पर्सन ए कर रहा है. तो टू ब्रिंग देम एट अ equal level, that is what means by equality principle. Equality treats equals similarly and unequals differently. This is very important. Equality, if the people are at the same level, तो आप that is equals, वो equal हैं, आप उनको similarly treat करो. लेकिन अगर सोचो एक बंदा ऐसा, मतलब सेम हाइट के लोग हैं तो उनको सेम लेवल स्टूल प्रोवाइड किया जाएगा ताकि उनकी हाइट सेम लेवल पे इंक्रीज़ हो. लेकिन जैसा मैंने अभी पहले डायग्राम बनाया था जिसमें एक अलग अलग हाइट के पीपल थे जिनको उनके हिसाब से स्टूल प्रोवाइड किया गया था, तो वो अनइक्वल्स थे जिनको डिफरेंटली ट्रीट किया गया ताकि आप उनको एट एन इक्वल और एट अ पार ला पाएँ. सो दैट इज़ ट्रीटिंग इक्वल्स सिमिलरली एंड अनइक्वल डिफरेंटली. आई होप जो मैंने फिगर्स के थ्रू आपको एग्जांपल दिया उससे ये स्टेटमेंट का मीनिंग क्लियर हो गया होगा. For example, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 prescribes the marriage age of girl as 18 years and boys as 21 years. This restricts a minor from getting married. This shows a distinction based on age in relation to the question of prohibition of child marriage. There is a distinction, 18 for girls, 21 for boys. There is a difference, right? However, if marriage between two parties were to be disallowed based on classification of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth, it would amount to discrimination and breach of right to equality. That means ये हमारी caste का नहीं है तो you can't marry him. This is a breach of right to equality because it is said that without any sort of discrimination the people have to be considered at an equal level. They are to be considered equally, right, to implement this principle of right to equality. But if you are discriminating them on the basis of religion, caste, then that you are violating this principle of, or this fundamental right of equality, that you are leading to discrimination on the ground of caste. I hope this thing is clear. So this is a clear distinction for the age group in which girls and boys should be married away, and so this is distinction based on age because maturity level differs, and this is what told as the other grounds of discrimination that can be done and that must be avoided. So that's all. In next video I will begin from discrimination and access to public places.